Let's see here. All right, there we go. We got it. Welcome. This is going to be interesting. This chat feels like it's going to unearth some things we haven't talked about before. I'm Aurora Light. I'm excited to be chatting with one of my soul sisters, Radiant Soul Nicole, part of the Radiant Evolution Collective. We're going to be talking about a magical creation key, alignment. What the heck is it? Why do we need it? Like, how do we get it? Then what? And what next? Like, what is this frequency that is so absolutely essential to actually being the change that we want to be here on the planet, elevating our own consciousness, rippling that out into the collective? And I think we're going to do this, though, with a lot more illustration of our personal stories and all of that. And then tomorrow, inside the Radiant Evolution Collective Facebook group, we are going to be doing a workshop that you are totally invited to, with like practices and try it on, feel it for yourself energetics. So that's going to be happening tomorrow, Tuesday, November 23rd at noon, with replays available. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I think we'll upload it there as well, so you don't have to go on Facebook if you don't want to. So yeah, Nicole, we're going to jam about alignment, because we pay lip service to it all the time, and we haven't gone deep into this key yet.
Alignment is actually one of, in my own signature system, it's one of the pillars. So it's super foundational and important for me. And I think that you and I and Nina have spent so much time learning to be in alignment and staying in alignment, and noticing when we fall out of alignment and getting back embodied in all of us, that we, it's something that we haven't necessarily dove deep into. So it's really fun to come back and talk about these things that are such an embodied piece of who we are, because it like allows us to dissect and break it down. And also it helps me remember all the lessons that I learned to get to where I am now, all that time in my life when I wasn't living in alignment, and what that felt like. And so grateful that I'm here now, where I am, where I do feel like I'm in alignment, and know how to get back there when I fall out of it, because I don't stay in alignment 100% of the time. We all need alignment tune-ups. We all need to get back into that state of alignment. And also so grateful to be able to share this with people, because I really feel like finding alignment, being in alignment, staying in alignment is like the foundational frequency for creating a life with ease and joy and flow. And if you don't know how to get there, then you need to watch today, and you need to come to a workshop tomorrow.
Yes, well said. So yes, full disclaimer, we have been playing with alignment for decades, and we don't live there, like Nicole was saying. The difference is, with so much experience with doing like practices of all kinds for many years to get into alignment and play there, and we know what it feels like when you fall out of alignment. Now it's just like, oh, this is hard. Why does it feel so hard? Why is it crushing me? Why is this so icky, sticky, weird feeling? Oh, I know what I need to do, right? Like, it's that awareness of the lack of ease that comes with alignment for me that allows me to get back there so quickly. I fall out of alignment every darn day. It's not a constant state. It's a dance. It's a weaving out of and back into and expanding, and your alignment shifts, and a dance is what it is. But it is the access point to more ease and flow and grace and resilience and intuition and magic and creation and all of that too. So you actually, in between speaking with Nina and I, when we were doing a little planning for the workshop tomorrow, and this call right here, you came up with a really beautiful definition of alignment that needs to be shared with the world.
Just dropped in because I was in alignment. And what it is alignment is the foundational frequency an internal state of fulfillment that creates flow. Read that in.
Say it one more time.
Alignment is a foundational frequency, an internal state of fulfillment that creates flow. And I can dissect that a little bit. And it's foundational for all those reasons, because if you're not in alignment, nothing else is going to work with ease. It's going to feel sticky and hard and challenging, and you're going to feel like you're spinning your wheels and not getting anywhere. And when that internal state is activated within you, it's likely you're on purpose because you're aligned to your soul's purpose, and you're aligned to what lights you up, what brings you joy, what makes you happy, and you're connected with your high self, and your high self is like feeding you all the information that you need so you can get out of your own way and not be in that mind level of what should I do next, but you're in alignment, so your high self is giving you those little breadcrumbs that you can follow. And that creates, when you're living your purpose, creates that sense of purpose. And when you're not living your purpose and you're trying to fight against it or find it, because maybe you don't know what it is yet, and that's okay. But when you kind of can connect with what your core desired feelings and your needs are and what it is that who you are, and when you can connect to all of that stuff, you can start living those things daily and connecting to those things daily. And that gives you that sense you're aligned to those things, so that if you're starting to go off course, it's kind of like an anchor, a guiding light that can be like, okay, get back into that center, into that alignment. And yeah, it creates flow. I think flow and alignment are really interconnected. But as you were saying about the dance, it's not the solid thing. It's dynamic. We're always changing what our definition is of alignment, of how to get there. It's just really this flowing thing. And I would say that the years that I spent the year exploring what flow was and exploring what alignment was, those were like some of the best years of my life, because I could surrender, and I had that faith that is required to live in alignment and live in flow and not let my mind lead the way, because it really is about living from the heart, living from the soul, living from that letting go. A lot about letting go.
Yes. I think when we're out of alignment, because since you're talking about what alignment is, when we're out of alignment, it is not that we can't get stuff done. Like, we're creator beings and we're really good at getting things done. The question is it the right things? Are they the things that are going to bring you more expansiveness, more joy, more flow, more freedom, more of who you really are? Or are you doing something else, right? It can either be your actions, your beingness are either creating more of who you are, or you are being less of who you are and more of what you think you should be, or what the programming is telling you. And that programming could be from the collective, from your parents, from your other ancestors, from teachers, from friends, right? A lot of alignment is letting go of what we think we should be doing and doing what we are actually here to do, right? I might not say your name right properly because I've never heard it said out loud, though I've seen it written so many times. But Salio Worth was just asking, why is it seemingly so hard to get back into expansiveness? This is really interesting, but I think there's two things. Maybe it doesn't have to be hard is one of them. And we're going to be talking about that in the workshop tomorrow. So don't miss that, because we're actually going to be doing some belief repatterning about how it could be easier than we think. Right. And we're going to be sharing some of our favorite tools that are like the fastest, easiest ways to get into alignment that have worked for thousands of people that we've worked with in workshops and retreats and online and classes and courses that are basically guaranteed to make a shift. The other thing is, I'm going to just say it, it's your nervous system that is crunching us into a ball of, we can't access our alignment, we can't access our intellect, logic, reason, our highest self, our magic, our intuition, our logic, our visionary capacities when our nervous system is in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever you're doing at the time. If you've got defenses up, if you're feeling like you're under attacked, if you are in a space of victim, if you are traumatized and you're holding that in your body, you can't be in alignment, because as soon as you are crunching up, the nervous system is holding you tighter, you're not in alignment. To me, when we're in alignment, you are literally physically able to be aligned, body, mind, heart, soul, highest self, and then you can access all that you are, your multidimensionality. You are also able to anchor into the earth. And there's a lot of ways that you can get there, but you can't get there if you are basically like in that protection mode. So we got to address the trauma that's in the room, that's in all of our lives, that's in the collective right now. And I think I have to bounce it over to you, Nicole, because you've got a really great perspective on this right now.
Yeah, I'm passionate about trauma and helping people hold space for their trauma. And that is such a key piece to the alignment process. And actually, if I think about it, the year that I got into alignment was the year after I acknowledged and appreciated all of the trauma that I did have and learned how to heal it. And I did that with the help of coaches and therapy and dancing and my own just inner work that I was doing. But yeah, the year that followed that was getting into alignment, and I had to heal all that trauma first, because if that is stuck in our body, we're just unable to access those higher realms. And getting into presence is another thing we'll be doing tomorrow, getting into that present state is often enough to let some of that trauma and everything melt, because it's something that we've never allowed ourselves to experience before, but our body's like, hey, this is still here. We're not going to be able to move past it until we give ourselves the space to heal it. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes you need to get more help and, go to a mental health professional that can help you with that. But in everything that we do in the Radiant Evolution Collective, we are always giving people space to just experience what is present in their body, and do that in a safe space, because it hasn't always felt safe to hold that in your field. Because if it did feel safe, you would have done it already. There's no judgment around it. Everybody's got trauma, and it just makes sense that we all have these experiences growing up. And especially if you're drawn to this type of work, I feel like we probably maybe not tend to experience it more, but we're maybe just more willing to look at it, I guess, in these circles. But it does seem like, people that are on a spiritual journey have gone through a wild ride of a life, and there's so much that we are here to be the ones to hold the space for and end that trauma in our family lines. And it's been really interesting to just in our own journeys, Aurora, and for myself, look at all that trauma that we are the ones where it stops in our lineage. And yeah, I'm wondering if you have anything to add to that piece of the conversation.
Well, first, I just want to say there's amazing comments that are happening in the Facebook Live. So if you're watching this on the YouTube, I just want to read you a few of the really amazing comments that people are sharing. Leslie was saying, I don't know that I've ever been capable of feeling connected while in survival mode. And that's the thing. When you're in survival mode, you can't, because everything is just trying to keep you alive. And so on the physiological level, your digestion shuts down, your immune system shuts down, all kinds of processes of healing in the body are shut down, because it is going, you have to escape this imminent danger. But the problem is our bodies don't understand that in our current society, the danger is typically not imminent. Like sometimes that happens. Sometimes you are, being attacked, or your car is about to flip over or something like that. And like, that's a real scenario. But most of our stresses are more chronic and low level, and our body just doesn't have the resources to live in that state long term. So it can create all kinds of dis-ease, like it doesn't feel good first off, but then actual disease. emotional, mental, physical, spiritual. And Kimberly is basically saying, like, how do you stay aligned when you've got so much stress in your life? I'm so sorry you're dealing with stress with your mom in the hospital. She said she's been kind of putting the journey on hold, but then Jolene goes, what if it's all part of the journey? And just breathe that in for a sec. What if it is all part of the journey? I actually believe that exactly like what Nicole said, we, especially the visionaries, the change makers, the light workers, the visionary people who came here to be the change on the planet, incarnated, especially like our generation, into families that were going to traumatize us and into circumstances that were going to be really, really hard, because we knew that was how we were going to level up. It's basically how you earn your black belt in earth magic, right? Being able to take and transform the stresses, the traumas, and allow that pressure to turn you basically from a carbon-based thing into a crystalline-based thing, the carbon into diamond with pressure, right? It is how we get our resilience. It's how we learn our lessons. So there's a lot of ways that I personally have worked to get out of survival mode. But I just want to acknowledge that sometimes there are life circumstances that are just going to be throwing you back in there over and over again. The question that brings me back home to myself is, how do I want to be? Not what do I want to do, but how do I want to be? What frequency do I want to hold in my body? And if there's something that's really feeling not good, it's like, okay, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling pressure, I'm feeling overwhelmed. What would I like instead? Probably relief, peace, calm. So I have a lot of tools that I'll use to get there, Kimberly, and you'll have a ton of tools that you can pull from. Sometimes you have to be reminded of what those are. And the very first thing for me would be, okay, breathe. Because breathing will relax the nervous system and activate the vagus nerve, or calm the vagus nerve. So you can do breathing exercises. There's so many of them, but you could do like the 5, 7, 8 breath. You could do any manner of breaths that calm and slow down your heart rate, which will automatically put you into that autonomic nervous system response. And then I can go, okay, in this moment right here and right now, I am going to remember what peace feels like in my body. I'm going to remember a time where I felt peace, and I'm going to expand that into my being right now. And I use my imagination and that memory to expand it into every cell of my beingness. And then I give myself permission to be more of that in this situation, right? And remember that, you know, things might be stressful, but I also am choosing, consciously or unconsciously, how I'm responding to them. If I'm in that activated nervous system, I'm going to just react to them. And it's like stress, I'm going to just try to defend myself. And when I take the time to come back into presence, into that calmer state, relax the nervous system, I have this clarity and spaciousness that opens up, and I can choose in that moment how I want to be. And I probably could not get from stress and overwhelm to bliss and joy, but I could move a little bit closer, a step there closer, right? And that's how I work with it. And then you also, from that place of relaxation, have more access to your intuition. And then you can go, okay, what is my next step? What's the next right thing that's going to support me? And if none of that is working, I ask myself, what is the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? And usually it's have some water. And then I would ask it again, what is the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? And I just keep doing that thing and asking that question until I can come to a place where I can see more, so I can have all the tools that I need to deal with whatever is in front of me. How about you, Nicole?
Just listening to you speak like calmed my nervous system. So thank you, co-regulation, and for you being a beautiful example of what regulated nervous systems are like. Hmm. And I'm actually thinking back to Friday last week when I had a super dysregulated nervous system. And I started the day with, I woke up feeling kind of off, and I'm like, okay, what can I do? I went to try to do some transforming pieces, and I was trying to move and dance. I'm like, oh, yeah, this kind of feels clunky and sticky. So that wasn't the right thing to do. I ended up being more gentle, doing more of those breathing exercises, doing some yoga, and then some really light movement because it felt even kind of sticky to do like faster things. And I'm like, oh, all I need to do is not try to shift it. I need to actually accept that this is how I feel right now and not try to change my experience. That was also something that sometimes I can change my experience really easily, and that's great. And other times I can't, and that's great. And I just, because we also have to allow ourselves to feel the things. And sometimes I need to feel the things a little bit longer, I guess, before I can move on. But the key to being in alignment is not letting yourself get stuck there for too long if you can. Um, yeah. So typically what I would do is also those things, coming into that present moment, and just be really gentle, because that's really the biggest piece I find when I can't shift my system, is being in that acceptance of what is, that this is my experience right now, and I get to be okay with that. I can try to be okay with that. And also, there was something that was coming through before for Kimberly about, when it's really tough, and there are those circumstances that are happening to us, and it does make us feel really stressed, it's like super important to double down on your self-care. And non-negotiable, start your day with a meditation where you're bringing yourself into that state right off the bat, because it can so often be when you're in that state of fight or flight for like an extended period of time, that you wake up and immediately your body's like, boom, cortisol, and you're like, start your day with anxiety, and that sucks. So whatever you can do in those states and in those days, to start your day with meditation or breathing or yoga nidra, I find super powerful. You can find lots of those for free on Insight Timer. Um, that's super powerful to also just relax that nervous system. If you're a playground member, you can also check out the calm your 5 tips to calm your nervous system practice in the playground, which is our membership. But some of those are just doing things like the breathing, sticking your legs up the wall, doing that pose, because that also is very helpful for the vagus nerve. Gargling is one of my favorite things that we can do to calm our nervous system. There's so many little things. And eventually your body will relax. Trying different meditations. But honestly, like meditation is like the hugest one, I think.
May I actually jump in and say, like, for me, sometimes it's not available actually when I am super stressed, or like anxious. I find that's when there's just so much. There's just so much happening. What I am doing when I am just trying to sit, or when I'm just trying to do my normal life stuff, is there's too much that's running through me, or trying to go through. So I need to move the energy first before I can sit and meditate. And for me, I need to get a sweat on. I need to like move my body. I need to dance or shake or shout or go for a really long walk, or even a short walk, work out with weights. Like, moving the energy first so that I can be open and relax is so essential to me. Otherwise, my nervous system just won't come out of that state. I need to move. And it's also one of the first things that will go when we are stressed, when it should be, again, doubling down on like, okay, I have to deal with life circumstances, but I need to carve out for me first the movement, and then the meditation and all of that. And I wanted to speak into acceptance. Yes, we have to accept it, but the spiritual paradox of it is, once we come into that acceptance of it, which we were talking about I think last week, the acceptance of the thing, we go, but what do I want to create from this space of acceptance, instead of resisting reality and be like, it is what it is. From that place we can go, how can I shift this? What is the next right thing So we get to that place where we can get into alignment and find our tools. But the other thing that's coming through for me is maybe you need to shift the circumstances, or maybe you can't. And the way to accept them fully is to change the belief system around what you're experiencing, because your belief system is what is creating the reality that you are in currently. Your experience of it is completely about the belief system. So I have in the past had beliefs that I need to be stressed in a circumstance. Is that actually true? Do you actually have to be stressed in any given circumstance that is not like life or death, where, yeah, the stress is like pumping up those hormones so that you can escape the tiger or whatever from the zoo? So what if there was a way to navigate this with more acceptance and more ease, and the belief that we could be resilient enough to handle whatever was going to come our way? That's why the tool of belief repatterning is something that I studied. I already had the superpower of finding the silver lining and being able to shift my state quite easily, but that has amplified my superpowers to the point that I can't think of a single situation now in which over the last 3 years I have remained stressed. I get there, I get to the stress point, and now because I've been doing it for so long, my subconscious will start to do it for me and will find the ways that I can relax my nervous system. So it's just, where are you buying the story that you have to be stressed right now?
I love that. That's super, super powerful. Man, we have some unsupportive beliefs, hey? I think of what actually ended up shifting. I think I tried to do something different on Friday. I did all the things, I tried all my tools. Movement wasn't quite doing it for me. I had to go do an errand that was normally not something normally something I did in that day, and just having that little bit of difference helped. And I totally recognized that this was totally helping I was totally doing like a dopamine thing. I'm like, I want chocolate. And I also wanted I also got a fancy adaptogen drink that's like a sparkling water with hemp oil and adaptogens in it, because I'm like, that will also help my nervous system. But I'm like, I'm gonna get my body just wants some connection right now. It wants some like of those warm fuzzy feelings, and I am gonna buy myself 2 chocolate bars because that feels good, and I'm gonna give myself that comfort that I'm needing, and that I can't seem to give myself in the other ways that the healthier ways. So I ate those chocolate bars without judgment and enjoyed the fuck out of them. And that actually helped me feel better. So we don't always have to judge our coping mechanisms, because they kept us safe, and they can still work, if nothing else is working. Lowering
Yeah.
the expectations is fucking huge, and that's also what got me through some really hard times in the past few years, is not expecting myself to do what I could do before the times were hard. And I first learned that having a baby. I'm like, okay, if all I get done today is like unload a couple of dishes on top of taking care of my baby, that's fine. And even if I don't do that, that's fine, because keeping a human alive when I've never done that before is a feat all on its own. And then I got a concussion. Well, then my husband got sick, and then if I couldn't do all the things I used to do before then, that's okay too. If our house is messy, that's okay. Like, giving yourself that grace is so important, because if there's hard stuff going on, you don't need to have a pristine house. You don't need to, I don't know, do all the things you think you need to do. If you need permission and you need to hear that from somebody, here's your permission slip, to give yourself a lot of grace to just do the bare minimum that you need. And that bare minimum should be taking care of yourself first, and then whatever else your obligations are that you need to do, your commitments. I like that word better than obligations. And that's it.
Yeah. So it's beautiful that Nicole gave you permission, but also, like, for everybody watching, how about we give ourselves permission to have a little bit more grace and acceptance of where we are at, so that we can make the space that we need to do whatever unraveling needs to happen, whatever life needs to happen. And that was kind of where I was wanting to go as well, was with sometimes we then need to like change the circumstances and the habits and the things that we are doing that are either that are unsupportive to whatever we are seeking or whatever we need for alignment. But I love the chocolate thing because I have done that so much. I leaned on that really heavily in the pandemic when all of my regular coping tools of like socializing and going out and doing things with friends and dancing were taken away. I did gain a lot of weight that way, so it's not the best long-term solution. But I also found that there is some other energetic stuff going on there that I have moved through. So since I moved through it, I don't use that tool anymore. I find that I have other ones available. I have also used spicy food when I need an endorphin hit, when I'm just feeling like super icky. But sometimes what we're choosing to consume or the people we're choosing to be around or even like the media we're choosing to consume is going to activate our nervous system, pull us out of alignment, bring us into other people's energy fields and out of our own. And this can be anything from caffeine, which will mess up your nervous system, unfortunately, and your adrenals, to using, well, let's just talk about alcohol and drugs, because I don't think I've touched on this publicly in many years, but it's so common for people to start their day with caffeine, jack up the nervous system, and then choose to use substances like marijuana or alcohol or other drugs. And I've done most of it. I have partied really hard in my lifetime, so no judgment about it. But when you're doing that, especially in the evenings, then you're like basically riding this roller coaster and you're adding so much freaking stress to your body, to your nervous system, to your mental, emotional, physical, astral self that it's so much harder to handle life. And again, I've done all the partying, I've done all the drugs, and I regret absolutely nothing. I became a sommelier when I was managing restaurants and I was drinking a lot of wine. I love all of that stuff, and it brought me so much in the moment, in the moments. But there came a time when I had come into more alignment with who I really was, that it was no longer elevating me or supporting me or helping me in any way. And it was just knocking me off balance. It was knocking me out of alignment. And back in 2012, there was an interesting catalyst that I had on the evening of December 31st. And Nicole, you've heard this story, but I don't think most of the people that have heard this, heard me in the last few years have ever heard this. So I was performing at an event called, it was actually with a BioWare Christmas party, like the video game things. And I was performing on stage, but we knew the people there that invited us. So we stayed for the party, and I indulged in gluten and dairy and some other, some alcohol. And my body didn't normally like that too much, but I also ate some fish that when I ate it, I was like, oh, there's something wrong with that. That didn't sit well with me, but everyone else was like, it was totally fine. And I had to leave that party early before midnight, clenching my butt cheeks, driving home because I knew something bad was going to happen. I dragged my husband out of there, and I spent all of that December 31st heading into 2012 to 2013 on the bathroom floor, because purging, purifying, and becoming enlightened. It was really interesting because if we all know that was supposed to be like the apocalypse time, the end of the Mayan calendar, right? Apocalypse just meaning the lifting of the veil. And it was super fascinating because I knew all about this. I was playing in all of these spiritual realms and exploring stuff at that time. And when I was puking my guts out, I felt fine spiritually and mentally and emotionally. I was like, I am so taken care of. I could feel my whole team with me. And it was like, this is actually purifying you to be able to walk into the next year, this next energy portal. I found out later, after several other incidents, that I'm actually allergic to basa or catfish, and it'll do that to me every time. So I don't eat that anymore. But that actually purified me. That's probably like 5 pounds of water weight just from like all of the dehydrating that happened. I felt so open and aligned the next day that I was really grateful for that whole experience, even though people could have been like, oh my God, that was awful. I was like, ooh, I needed that, because it was this catalyst for me. And I was like, I want to feel like this purity, this clarity, this alignment more. And so I set the intention on January 1st of 2013 to spend an entire year listening to my body. And damn, if that wasn't the most amazing year to date that I'd ever had. I went on so many adventures. I wrote a book about it that I haven't actually published, but I was blogging about it at the time, and I traveled all over the world, and I started a business, and I did like crazy, became a priestess. Like, so many cool things happened that year, because I didn't intentionally mean to be sober the whole time. That wasn't on my mind. But at no point did my body ever say, hey, can you go ahead and like drink or like smoke weed or have other things? And, you know, I told the story wrong. It was actually December 21st that this whole thing was, on that day, December 21st, 2012. And then, because this was like, that's almost 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, the memory. Because I remember being a server. I was serving on December 31st, and it had been about a week, 10 days. And, you know, they're like, here, have some champagne. And I was just like, my tongue would like that, but my body would not. I started listening to what my body would say in alignment, like body, mind, heart, and soul, instead of just like what the mouth would think was tasty and delicious right now. And so that is something that shifted the entire course of my ability to come into alignment, was to have the clarity and the spaciousness to not cloud my vision, so that I could listen to my body and what it was telling me to do. So that's that story. You're muted.
And there we go. I love that. And that's actually like, ooh, so many codes are dropping in as you were speaking into that. Because on December 12th of 2012, I was in, oh my God, not Mexico, another country, Dominican Republic, and for my friend's wedding. And I remember being kind of upset because I wanted to do my own spiritual thing on 12/12/12, and ended up getting super, super, super drunk and passing out like within hours of arriving at the resort, because so this is actually maybe a day or two before the 12th. And yeah, passing out. And I had, up until that point, been like trying to heal my gut. So I was eating an anti-inflammatory diet most of the time. And I had like, again, like wasn't drinking or doing drugs or anything like that. And I just went to a resort and had like a whole bunch of sugary drinks in the 30-degree sun, where it's normally like, you know, freezing where I'm from. And it did not end well. But now I'm realizing I probably was doing my own purification to get into that next level of consciousness that was available to us then. So that's super interesting. So thank you for reflecting that to me. And also realizing too, before I had, so we kind of had the same journey in just different timelines, where I talked about my year of alignment. The year before that was the year of softening, and the year before that was listening. So I learned how to listen, and then I could soften all of the judgments and all of that stuff. And then I came into alignment. And I feel like that's actually what my pillars are when I'm doing coaching and things like that, because that's what we need to do also to be able to receive all of that information. And then I feel like when people work with you, you take them to like the next level, like, okay, so you're in this baseline of aligned state. What's next? So I think it's so just, this is all just dropping in. It's so fun how we are so complementary for each other, and so magical. And it really is so magical once you learn to listen to your body, because I know we've spoken into this before, because most of us have not been told how to listen to our body. And in fact, that wisdom has been poured out of us, because when we're kids, we've been told, you can't be cold right now, or you can't be hot right now. Wear this jacket. You have to be hungry. Come on, you didn't eat anything yet today. Your body can't just only want that, and on and on and on. And then we just, you know, we just start to believe that we either shut that off, and we start to believe that our body is, not telling us anything. And I'm sure that's also why I have also gained weight throughout the years, because I feel like I don't have that switch that tells me you're full, you should stop eating now. Although I've learned to work with that and be more aware of it and listen to my body more throughout the time as well. But it's yeah, all of these pieces are like kind of like the precursors to being able to be in that aligned state most of the time. Because if you're one of the things that we were speaking about being in alignment is you need to know when you're out of alignment or in alignment. And if you don't know how to listen to your body, you're not going to be able to recognize that. So that's such an important piece to bring that all together. Just loving all the comments that everybody is dropping in the space today too. Yay, Kimberly, glad you've been getting so many codes from this live. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, everything is multifaceted, multidimensional, and builds on itself. And there's actually not even a whole, vertical or even like linear way that we go through them. We can talk about steps, we can talk about processes, but we kind of like bebop around multidimensionally wherever we want to go. You're speaking into the way that I coach. It's like, yes, and so I choose to work with people that already have done a lot of work because I want to fly with them into like the multidimensional cosmos and do amazing work and build businesses and do all of that. So I specifically choose to work with people who do that, but we still do a lot of transforming. We still do a lot of like, hey, what's in the way of your next level? And so much of that is about listening to the body and trusting self. That's the other piece. And we can't do that if we are spinning in our trauma. So that is always, I feel, the first step to be able to relax the nervous system. And it's never complete because life keeps, like re-traumatizing us over and over with giant global panoramas and stuff like that. So, by the way, that's a TikTok joke. We don't always say pandemic. Panini, panorama, what have you. Trusting yourself is part of learning to listen to the body and actually then act on what it says. And I loved what you were talking about with all of the outside forces that we'll listen to instead of ourselves, because we're trained to do that. And it's so easy to fall into that authoritarian sort of parenting style. But then I remember, oh no, let her explore her body, let her explore what it feels like, but also offer guidance. So parents, we can work on it together. But you can, like, it's almost two steps that interlock. Listening to your body, having the space to listen to your body means that you feel safe enough to actually get in your body. If you're out of your body because of all the trauma and you're disassociating or you're afraid to feel the feelings, how can you listen to your body? So that, like I said, that's the first piece. But then once you listen to the body, which, by the way, is a portal to your multidimensional self. It's a portal to your intuition. It's a portal to your highest self. Within your DNA is encoded all of the information out of everything you've ever been or ever done. So you can go in to listen to all of that and get all the information, because as above, so below, as within, so without. But you have to then be able to listen, be still enough to hear, and then take the aligned action. Not just any action of like, my body told me that I should probably just drink some water, so I'm going to go and I'm going to drink a bottle of wine instead, which is what we've all done in the past, or most of us, right? Like, I should take it easy tonight, and then you're like 7 shots in on the dance floor and you're like, who cares? But then you pay for it later, right? It's like actually doing the things that your body is asking of you, which takes practice, it takes discipline, it takes that level of self-trust of, I know what's best for me, even if somebody else, an expert, a parent, a lover, a partner, is telling me I should do something. I'm going to listen to me first. And that's a whole thing that takes practice. But when you do it a little bit, there's typically a really amazing upward spiral or feedback loop that happens that supports it, because you're like, oh, I did the thing and it feels good. And then you receive more. When we listen a little bit, the universe and our body's like, oh, good, you're listening. Here's more information, which can be overwhelming sometimes. But then if we act on it again, then we'll be like, oh, this feels even better. And little by little, we can get into that space of practicing taking aligned action all of the time that brings us into more alignment, right? It's this circle, it's this cycle, it's a spiral, it's a dance. You take the aligned actions, you actually improve your alignment. So again, it's not like there's a linear process that we can really give you, although we're kind of going to give you the secret 3 keys to it and the evolutionary alchemy system that I use for everything and that I've taught Nicole and Nina. And this is how we create amazing transformation and alignment and magic with all of our clients. But it's going to be layered. It's going to be a spiral path, as life is.
I'm so excited to share that tomorrow. And as you were speaking, I wanted to speak into to the roller coaster. And when you're living in alignment, so actually first I'm going to speak into when you're not living in alignment, it feels like you're being dragged along the roller coaster of life. And it's like super high, it's so high you can't even see, and then super low is that you can't even see. And it's like up and down, and you don't feel like you have any control. And for me, what it's like to be in alignment is I still may be going along for the ride because I can't control everything in my life, but it doesn't feel so high and so low because I still have this like, just that connection, that self-trust, all of that stuff that I've built up over the years, my resilience skills, I guess also, and knowing that I'm on purpose and that it's all part of the process, and that I have the tools to shift my beliefs or shift my state or all of that stuff. It makes it feel like, the roller coaster is maybe just going up and down like this instead of that super, super high and low. And it makes it feel like I can come back to that center. And also, I guess you could look at it like the pendulum swinging out this way really far, this way really far. It kind of comes back to center, but it's always moving. It's dynamic. It's something that gets to be, it's just this dynamic energy, because so much around us is changing all the time. The baseline of, human consciousness is changing all the time. Our own evolutionary journeys are different, and we're in different ebbs and flows depending on where the planets are and all of that different stuff. So we can never have this solid, static experience. But when we learn to go to flow and trust and have that surrender, all of that stuff contributes to living in that state of alignment, and life just gets so much easier, so much more joyful. Yes, a dynamic dance artist, that's right. I want to speak into the year that I chose to live into alignment. In alignment and explore alignment was also when I was going through a post-concussion syndrome. And I actually am like, I could call that a period of like partial disability in my life. I could say that. And I was really struggling at first with it because it changed my identity. It changed my whole how I lived my life. And as I really explored being in alignment and staying in alignment and learning what that all meant, I was actually able to start enjoying my life and not just survive, but move out of that state of survival to the maximum that I could experience thriving while living with a concussion. My life was so much more joyful, and the circumstances that were created because of the aligned actions that I took allowed me to really just begin to create a life, well, that was so beyond what I could imagine while living with post-concussion syndrome, and got me to this point right here. And it's so incredible that you can have those external circumstances happening to you and also choose to take the aligned action to do something better for yourself as well. Because I could have stayed stuck there and probably would still be dealing with that. And I don't even want to think about that. I love where I am now.
To be fair, it would have been hard for you to stay stuck because I would have been like yanking on your arms and like legs and be like, come on, which I kind of, did energetically first and then physically. It's like, no, there's more for you. Let's do it.
Yes. So thank you for being there to not let me get stuck there. But I feel like there's a possibility that that could have happened.
Yes, it could. Another person could have, and you could have chosen that for sure, because I couldn't like control you, but we had bigger things to do. So it was a really interesting time. I feel like it would be important for us to speak into, we really talk about it really quickly, but like, what are we aligning to? Like, yeah, getting body, mind, heart, and soul and highest self in alignment, and also in alignment with the earth. But it's like getting into alignment with who we really are and what we really came here to do. And I feel like that's also what that journey was with your concussion and with that year of alignment, because you were doing something that in the past was what you were supposed to be doing. And it was great. But then you were kind of stuck in that space and there was other things and more for you to do. And you hadn't made the moves or listened to the heart to shift that, right? And so it was a question of needing to get knocked around to be able to let go of what you were clinging to, really quite thoroughly, because it felt safe and you were used to it and all of that. It was terrifying to just like let go of a career that you've had for so long and start a new business and everything like that. But it was moving into alignment with where you were now. That's the thing. Your alignment point is going to be changing. I mean, it's always going to be body, mind, heart, soul, highest self, and the earth and all of that. But where you have been, you might outgrow, and there's time for an evolution. And that's, I think, one of the hardest ways to get into alignment, to stay into alignment, is if where you were is where you wanted to be, and it was perfect in the past. And I had to do that too. I had created my first business, Dancing into Being, Movement Arts and Healing, and I had that for many years, and I was getting paid for teaching dance and doing some, beautiful retreats and workshops, and then being an artist in residence, and people paid me money to hula hoop, and it was so good. It was literally my dream job that I created out of nothingness that was paying me so well, and I wasn't supposed to stay there. And I knew for years that I needed to shift it, and that I was supposed to bring my business online and connect with global audiences instead of just working in Edmonton and just doing what I was doing there. But I loved what I was doing so much that I kept putting it off. And my body was disintegrating. I had all these injuries that would not heal. And like, every time I'd be like, body, why are you still so messed up? I like, why aren't you healing? I was like, because you're supposed to stop. You're supposed to do something else, and I'm not going to heal until you stop. And I was like, well, that's very clear, but damn it. And even then, even after I had those messages, I was like, okay, I'm going to make myself a 3-year plan, and I'm going to do that. And it was definitely not 3 years when I made that plan. I wound up collapsing that to about 9 months. It doesn't need to take as long as we think it's going to take, but I know what it feels like to be terrified to make the leap. And right now I'm seeing it almost as like those like bamboo poles that like you could be balancing on as like a circus act, or if you're like a martial artist or something like that, and like having to leap from one pole where you have your balance like to the next pole, and it's a bigger pole, it's higher, it's more precarious, but like that's where you're supposed to be. That's tricky. There's a constant evolutionary process of alignment expanding and evolving into where you are going, who you are fully meant to be. And I think that's throughout our entire lifetime, because basically if you're staying stagnant, it's almost like going backwards, because everything else is evolving on this planet at a really rapid pace.
People have always commented on how, almost see, I guess, in my job, I've heard people say this about how I'm so easy, I can adapt to change so easily. And I'm just like, well, yeah, because like everything's always changing. Why put all that energy in trying to keep things the same, even though I was trying to do that with my job, keep the job. But like, changes within my job. I was like, okay, I'm doing this now. I'm doing this now. I don't care. Let's like come at me. Like it's life is always changing. And so if we can be in this, like, it's almost about coming back into being in this present moment. If you can be in the present moment, it doesn't matter because that's always shifting and changing. And if you can just be okay with what is, then you'll be fine. Like, you don't have to complicate it so much. So if you can be okay with getting the message to being, you need to evolve until the next level of your life. As we just talked about, yes, that is scary. And also, here's 2 examples of we did it when we did the thing and we didn't die from doing it. And it caused me to have to clear a lot and grow a lot. And the version of me that knew that I should be going here, like the high version of me that knew that I should be going here, knew that I had lessons to learn and things to unlearn so that I could become more of myself. And that's why that's so important. So I had a program called Human Being so that you could remember who you truly are, because if you don't know who you are, then you don't have something to align to, I guess. You need to know what makes you light up, and you need to know what you don't like. And usually it's easier to know what you don't like, but you can use that to point you into the direction of what you do like. You need to know all that stuff about yourself, and that whole thing is part of the journey. So don't discount that you feel like maybe you should be doing something in your journey and you're not there yet, but discovering who you are is like so foundational and important so that you can live in alignment, because that's what you're aligning to, is what brings you joy, what lights you up. That's what you want to align yourself to. What people do you want to be around that light you up? That's what you want to align yourself to. Yeah, that's gotta find all that stuff first, and then you can start creating even more from there. But if you don't have those foundational pieces first, then have fun, explore that. Come and play with us in the playground, because that's what we help you do.
Yeah, we're gonna actually open the doors up again pretty soon, because we're gonna spend the whole month of December getting like aligned, like for everything, specifically for the solstice to create like 2022. But also when you said discover, Nicole, I just lit up, and it reminded me that Jason Estes, who I've interviewed before on this channel and who I absolutely adore and resonate with so deeply with what he brings through, and he has the ability to like see the time stream, and he brings through some really interesting information. And of course, use your discernment and feel like if this feels true for you. But he says the way time is working right now, that the new year for 2022 is actually on November 29th. And like for me, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that tracks. Cool, interesting. So it's perfect that we were getting super aligned AF before that, because I love stepping into the new year feeling super aligned and shiny and free. And then we're going to do more of that all through December, going through like 21 days of practices in the playground of things that get you aligned body, soul, and mind, and going through them more slowly. But discovery, like just breathe into that word, discovery, the frequency of discovery, not just for our own individual selves, but like planetary discovery for humanity to figure out what we're actually capable of. Like, does that feel amazing? I'm so ready for this. I've been able to see the future for most of my life in general senses, and remember what is coming for us. And it's like, this is what we've been waiting for. And so getting aligned is getting prepared. And actually, I haven't watched it yet, but I saw Jason did a live the other day called like preparing versus waiting. And it's like, yeah, are you just waiting for the things to change, for the earth to change, or are you preparing? And a lot of us, probably you watching this, you've been preparing, right? So it's not like you're doing nothing. So if you feel like you've been spinning your wheels and walking around, you've probably actually been transmuting and clearing out so many traumas and so much ancestral stuff and everything like that. So forgive yourself for believing that you're not where you should be, though, because we always wind up where we should be, right? The universe will drag us there. So it's a question of, are you going to go kicking and screaming? Are you going to have an injury that's going to completely derail you so you can learn the lessons? Or are you going to like allow yourself to listen and then do the things and be where you need to be? So like when my intuition was saying, actually my highest self, like, declaring from on high, it's time to build the online business and quit doing what you're doing. I know that if I had not listened to that, there would have been something that would have taken me out and my body would have been incapable of doing that in-person job. I could feel that coming. It was like one timeline was like a car accident or something where I would be like unable to do the stuff that I did. Or the other timeline was, okay, I don't have to do it right now, but I have to start taking the moves in that direction. I have to start taking the aligned action in alignment with where I am supposed to be. The cosmic trajectory of my life is leading me over in this way. So if I stay on this track that feels safe, that feels like where I have been, that feels really good and easy and safe, I'm going to be pushed on to the other one. So alignment is a whole lot of things.
Or like, a concussion, because I feel like it's, so first of all, you pretty much summed up Jason's and Skylar's video beautifully. I did listen to it already. So great job, but I'm sure there's more codes because I just love listening to them. And also, I just want to give an example of what it's like when you're not, I didn't choose to follow the messages and the nudges and all the things that I was given, and I got a concussion. So at the end of 2019, I had my year of softening, and I was, had my year of listening. Let me start again. At the end of 2018, I had my year of listening. I listened to myself, and I was in a super aligned state, as I always get around this time of year, because I do the intentional, journaling, which we also have in the playground as well, that we're going to be doing in December. But I was in this aligned state. I was getting these aligned messages, and my message was to soften next year because 2018 was hard and I wanted to soften. And I wrote pages and pages, and I'm kidding you not, fucking pages about how I wanted to sleep more in 2019 and how I wanted to take such good care of myself and how I wanted to rest and just like do all this stuff to soften, because I felt like I was being guided to heal my nervous system. And this was really all great and fine, except for when January came in 2019, I went back to work and I was like not doing any of those things. I was not doing the things. I was not taking the aligned action. And shortly into 2019, I got a concussion because universe is like, hey, Nicole wants to sleep more. Nicole wants to soften and all of this stuff. And Nicole was not taking the aligned action to do those things. So I was forced to do it. And if had I listened, and I didn't know how, I think, so I think that's why the problem was I didn't know what to do. Now I know, and now I'm going to share these tips with you tomorrow and in December in the playground about how to stay in alignment and take that aligned action so that life doesn't have to be so hard, and so that you don't have to get the proverbial smack upside your head to start making a change in your life. I went through the hard things so that we don't have to share, or so that you don't have to potentially, if you choose not to. There might be some codes in there for you to make life a little bit easier. Because, yeah, I mean, I love all the lessons from everything, and also it would have been nicer to not have to pause my life for 2 years. If I could have done it a different way, I would have.
Mm-hmm. But you learn those lessons so thoroughly because you went through that experience. And so who's to say that it, wasn't better this way? That's the other thing, the full acceptance. When you trust, that's the other piece, that it is happening for you, regardless of how it works out, then you can be gifted the wisdom from those experiences. I had a similar thing back in, I want to say like 2009. I was like, how do I say this? 2009. I forgot. 2009. Are we like those old people who are telling the stories back in 2018, but actually it was Wednesday? No, was it Thursday? And the moon was out. It was a full eclipse. Was it in Leo or was it in Aquarius? No. But in 2009, just trying to say this was a long, long time ago, there were other things that I also wasn't listening to. And it was about how to take care of me, because I just moved to Edmonton. I found my soul family, and I was partying a lot. I was celebrating life with them, and there was a lot of self-care stuff that I wasn't doing, and a lot of like, hey, there's another path for you. There's something important you're here to do. I was like, I know I'm supposed to do something with teaching and healing, but I don't know what yet. But I wasn't making enough space for the things to drop in about it. So I broke my ankle. And it was a beautiful friend of mine that was a catalyst for this, because she took my boot, and I wore her boots, which are a little bit too big. Then I stepped down, broke my ankle, huge avulsion fracture. It was really painful. And I was working as a server at the time, and I couldn't do my job. So everything was taken away from me. And I had all this space in my life. And I also had to learn how to take care of myself and how to ask for help. And it was this experience that brought me into this space of understanding what was next for me. I didn't have the capacity to hear it without having this big catalytic event. And it was at the time that I was supposed to be a dance teacher, which was so out of left field. Like, I had nothing in my life was leading me to that moment, except that dancing is what moved me. It fed my soul. It was where I felt the happiest. And I wanted, when I couldn't do it, to do that more than anything. I was like, I don't care if I can walk again. I just want to be able to dance. I couldn't even chair dance without being in pain because everything was so messed up. And I was like, wow, if this is what I miss the most, maybe I should be doing this with my life. And I had no idea how, but then a whole bunch of things occurred in my life, and I became a sacred dance facilitator. And then I found hula hooping, and then I got really good at hula hooping and started teaching it and moving it. And now I get to weave all of that back into the work that I'm doing. But I'm so grateful for that catalytic event that knocked me out of alignment so that I could actually find it, right? It's sometimes you can't avoid those things, or maybe you could if you were amazing at listening, you're a boss at listening, but maybe they are happening for you. So those things that are like stressful, that are cataclysmic, catastrophic, that put your life upside down, what if it's just bringing you back into alignment with where you're supposed to be going?
So I keep meaning to tell you this and forget, but you need to make a series on TikTok called Everything is a Fucking Paradox and explain how all these different paradoxes work, because it's so true. I'm like, yes, I needed that experience, and maybe I could have done without it, but it's all perfect at the same time. And we speak into the paradoxes all the time, but I think you can speak into them so beautifully, and that would perhaps go viral on TikTok. So that's been in my mind for a while to share.
Thank you. I feel like I want to call this talk, when I post it to YouTube, Alignment, It's All a Paradox. Yeah, all the spiritual things are these paradoxes, because it's like when you elevate out of separation and duality and polarity into the higher dimensional perspectives where you understand that it all is, and it's this unified field, it's neither this nor that, like this or that, it's both of them at the same time. So two things can be true at the same time, which you have to have a elevated, ascended, visionary perspective, from that perspective of the eagle, for the perspective of our highest self, right? And being able to zoom out to the galactic spaces. That's one of my superpowers, to see what is and see it and hold it both. So being able to hold more than one thing at the same time without it causing cognitive dissonance and messing with your mind is a really fun evolutionary trait that we as humans are going to be evolving into. And a lot of people are already anchoring that in right now.
Mm-hmm. And I think that to bring this all back into alignment, I think that if you are in alignment, you get to see both of those. That's a great way to know that if you're out of alignment, you may notice that you can only see like one perspective of things, and there's not all that is available to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And you don't have to do it alone. That's the other thing Leslie's just saying. Allowing support was the most uncomfortable thing to get over a few weeks ago, because you had resistance to support. Oh man, I remember, again, back in 2009, I'm turning 39 in 2 weeks, so I feel like more of my stories are going to be taking place in the way back past, like back in the 1900s.
The late 1900s.
The late 1900s. I remember crying in pain trying to do dishes at my house. And my roommates walked in and they were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm gonna do the dishes. They're like, let us do the dishes for you. I'm like, that's not fair. And they're like, it's not about fair. We're gonna do the dishes for you. And I had to learn how to accept more support from my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, and my friends, and also learn to ask for it from my family. Because I told my dad I broke my leg, and he was like, oh, okay, are you okay? I was like, yeah, totally, I'm totally fine. And my sister had to be like, you are not fine, you are not okay right now. Like, can you tell him you want him to come visit you? And I had to speak it out. And it was a great opportunity and the catalyst for me learning how to activate my voice. I used to not be able to speak what I needed. There's a whole evolution of that. We'll tell those stories another time. But we're going to go deeper into this tomorrow. We are going to play with the how and some beautiful practices that we have in the Aligned AF workshop inside the Radiant Evolution Collective Facebook group, noon Mountain Standard Time, but you can join us on the replay if you're not able to make it live. And we're going to be sharing like the fastest tools that we know. So this was a really great way of laying the foundation, talking about what we need, the trauma healing, all of that. So I really hope that you can join us to get those quick and easy tools. And then we're also going to be visioning into the future as well and bringing through that frequency of your unique soul essence and how you want to show up and be, and anchoring it into this reality with the group field. So that's going to be so much fun. So if you can make it, I hope you can. If you can't, there's a replay. So we will see you tomorrow then at noon or the next day whenever you catch the replay. Is there anything else that they need to know to set this up for tomorrow's Aligned AF workshop?
Yeah, make sure that you've got water because we'll be doing some belief repatterning and have a protein snack. So just thinking of the logistics of it all. Because that also helps build those new neural pathways in your brain so that you can choose a different belief, which creates a different reality for you. And what else do we need? We need some space to shake some stuff off, to go into silence as well. So, available.
Yeah, so I think tomorrow's workshop play shop is experiential, so try not to like listen to it while you are in the car or something like that. Like actually put aside an hour and a half where you can be present. So if that means you have to catch it on the replay, catch it on the replay so that you can be undisturbed, you can make some noise, you can move, and you're not going to be also trying to like wash dishes at the same time, which is great for these kinds of chats, right? Like do your thing. I listen best if I'm like on my Stairmaster doing dishes or cleaning to conversations like this. But for the workshop, play shop, just play shop sounds weird to me, but it's going to be experiential. You're going to need to get some movement with us. So I'm inviting you all to join us there and invite your friends. It's joyevolution.group, which would bring you to the Radiant Evolution Collective. And there's lots of fun resources in there. We have a lot of fun inside of that space.
Yeah, I think you covered it. So
beautiful. I'm feeling more in alignment because we had this amazing conversation. Thank you to everybody that was participating and sharing their experiences as well. And we love you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe so you don't miss any of this fun magic.